Have you got a word of the week?
I have, and you're going to like it.
Oh, good.
It's tight. And the reason I've chosen that is because not only have I been tight for time this week, but I washed my cashmere mittens, and they are extremely tight.
Yeah, you should never wash cashmere. What's the matter with you?
No, I didn't know it in my heart of hearts. But
Yes. Oh, tragic.
They were teeny, tiny. I have managed to squeeze my hands into them, and they have expanded enough to wear. So I'm a happy woman.
Well, I am wearing my cashmere travel wrap that Jane gave me. Let me have a look at the washing instructions on this. I'm sure it says 100% cashmere.
No water.
No, I frankly, I would probably take it to the dry cleaner. I wouldn't even attempt that. Consequently, it's probably rather smelly. No, it's okay.
Welcome to Own It, Your Business and Your Life, with Nicola Cairncross and Judith Morgan. In this podcast, we're going to cover everything you need to embrace to become a successful entrepreneur, marketing, money, and much, much more. How to create a business doing just what you love. How to own it, your business and your life. This one will be fast, funny, feisty, and very lively. So sit back and enjoy the show.
Nicola, how are you?
I'm very well, thank you. It's finally stopped raining here temporarily.
Okay, rain. We've had snow, not where I live, but in the UK it's blanketed in snow with some very pretty pictures online. But we've been basking in nice sunshine, very, very heavy frost. I wouldn't want to have to go anywhere in my car, not because it's frosty, but because my car's covered in it.
Right, yeah, you'd have to scrape it all off. That wouldn't be pleasant, would it?
No. And now you told us, I think last week or the week before, that you'd bought a coat.
Yeah.
Coat's no good in rain, is it?
Well, it's all right. It gets you from the house to the car warm.
Oh, you got your car back. Good.
But there's been lots of landslides here. One to Verna's collapsed on top of another one.
Oh.
And lots of road landslides. So I'm not driving anywhere at the moment.
No,
I did
that's good.
Kalamata at the weekend. So.
Mm-hmm.
But apart from that, it's all good.
All right. So tell us about your week.
Well, it's been frantic is the word. Because it's the last week of Sarah working for us, and we had to recruit and then start to train a new person. So, that's going quite smoothly. I think I found an excellent person. It's funny, really, because she stood out dramatically by her covering letter, and I'm taking heart from that because that's exactly what Patricia did. Who didn't fit my brief completely in the early days, but she certainly was worth her weight in gold. So,
okay. And where is this woman in the world?
Well, she's in the Philippines, unfortunately, but we're only 6. She's only 6 hours ahead here.
Okay.
So, because obviously I'm 2 hours ahead of the UK and Greece.
Yeah.
So I think there's plenty of crossover time. It's fine.
Okay.
And fingers crossed, she's, I gave her a little task to do as a test, and she was asking really sensible questions about it before she started. And
did you get your you were going to last week? You said you were going to hire a project manager to handle the switchover. Did you do that?
Well, I did, but then it turned out that when Sarah wanted to finish, wasn't very convenient for the project manager. So she's done some bits, and next week she's going to take on the sort of induction, the proper induction of this freelancer.
Okay.
In a corporate-y kind of way.
Yeah.
Then I need to talk to her about how to take on a second person because obviously, if this freelance,
you feel vulnerable, don't you, with all your eggs in one basket?
Yeah, holidays are very vulnerable.
Yeah.
So yes, I'm not quite sure how to handle that, but that's what it's been all about this week: getting standard operating procedures, getting videos done, tick lists, getting a schedule of work, not only what the output should be on each day, but on what the tasks undertaken should be on each day. So I've never been more organised, Judith.
Yeah, it's giving me a bit of a shudder, standard operating procedures, tick lists. It's creeping me out a bit.
I know, but that's because you don't have anyone else in your business, do you?
No, not when. Well, why would you when you've got the admin master already in charge?
Well, the admin master, but I get so bored doing.
Well, we run different businesses. That's the point. Today is the 31st of January. Guess what I'm going to do after this?
Nothing.
My accounts!
No! Okay.
Come on!
Well, as you know, I've had a bit of an up and down month with my accounts.
Indeed, yes.
Not so much my accounts, more my limited company, but
but
no news on that front either. So I'm trying not to think about that at the moment.
Okay.
What about your week then?
January, the first 3 weeks, 7th, I think they were 7th, 14th and 21st were good for me. Not for all of my clients. 3 of them phoned into Small Business Big Magic at the end of last week and said they'd been ill or brought low by various things. So my experience of the first 3 weeks of January have not been universal. And I'm grateful that wasn't me. But then I peaked too soon. And this week, Sunday I didn't feel terribly well. Monday, not much better. And then I wasn't really in the mood for it at all. So I've had a couple of lie-ins. I think I am empathic, but not so much that speaking to the last 3 sick people made me poorly, because obviously I work virtually, but I wasn't really feeling it. And so I didn't really bother to turn up for work. But last Saturday I had my besties over for lunch, and that was lovely. And I felt fine all day, fortunately. And they are such a tonic. It was great. And then I've had another little win this week, which I think you might find quite interesting. At Christmas time, I was persuaded, much against my better judgment. I mean, I cannot overstate that, much against my better judgment, to try the PPI thing.
Oh, yeah.
Because the final deadline for anybody who wants to make a claim on this is in 2019. I think it's a good chunk of time away. I think it's
August. Still got time left, have we?
Well, yeah, but we've got to do it. If we want to do it, we've got to do it now. I think the end, I know the end is in 2019. I'm not sure of the precise date, but I think it's August. That's just from memory. I could look it up. But anyway, I'd been written to by a firm called Allay, Allay, in October, and I'd ignored their correspondence because I honestly didn't believe I had any PPI. I know that every card and loan and financial facility I'd ever had, I'd always tick the box saying no thanks very much, because it always made it more expensive. And if you're self-employed and you're trying to get access to funding as cheaply as possible, you don't want an extra cost on it. And also, if you're the only person in the household self-employed, it's pointless. Anyway, but at Christmas time, a friend, when I was feeling particularly low, a friend had said she'd had good results. And so I grumpily filled out the forms. So I went back to my virtual office and said, that letter you sent me in October, can you post it to me? Because this company had already knew which banks I could claim against. So all I had to do was fill out my addresses for about 20 years, sign it, blah, blah, blah. Well, I've already had one small positive result, but 8 more are definitely in the pipeline.
Oh my God.
So what happens, this is even worse than I thought it was, because what it means is even when you ticked the box saying no thank you, they still put it in there somewhere.
Yeah. Well, I keep hearing from people over here who've had, lots of...
Well, quite.
I should really do it, because I had credit cards, bank accounts, mortgages, loans.
Yes, quite. You can't do mortgages yet. Yeah. I think we can do mortgages, but forget the mortgages for the moment. Certainly one of a credit card company that lent me money as well as a credit card is 2 claims, if you see what I mean.
Yeah.
But anyway, let me tell you this. I thought when I was filling out these forms, if nothing else, it will mean I can stop saying to those annoying people who keep persuading me to do this. I'll have drawn, if I get all these no's, it'll be drawn a line underneath it, and I'll know I've done everything I could and there was nothing to be done and I was right all along. But actually I was wrong all along. And you can do this yourself if you've still got the paperwork, which I haven't. You can, no, quite. If you had, listeners, you can simply go to the PPI page of every bank and lender and financial institution, and there's a special department whose job it is to pay you back because they've been caught out doing this wrong, and so they have to bend over backwards to look after the customer in this regard. So if you've still got all your paperwork, just go directly to the bank's PPI website page and put in your address, and it tells you straight away. If you haven't, I've binned all of mine ages ago, then I think if you talk to LA or any other thing like that, they know from, the amount of information there is out there in the universe about us. I mean, they sent me the forms already had, Co-op Bank, MBNA, they had the bank's names on them. I didn't have to work out who I'd had it with. I just had to give them all of my addresses, and then they file them. It's quite a long, slow process. They file them with the lender, and the lender says yes or no, but they've got 40 days in which to do that. Which is why I'm suggesting crack on, basically.
Well, see, okay, so I went to a company online, and I started to fill in their form, and I couldn't do it because I couldn't remember who I'd had loans and...
Yeah, well, I didn't have to do it with these people. They knew who I'd had loans with, because, of course, that information is all a matter of public record on your credit
Well, I'm going
reference
to go
thingy.
to your company then, because the one I tried, who is quite a big name in the industry,
Yeah.
I just couldn't even attempt to.
Well, it's interesting because, my group I always talk about called I Love My Life. Well, yesterday I put in there, I've had this little win, and 3 other people had a go, and one of them said you don't need to do it through an intermediary. You can just go straight to the thing, the lender, original lender. And somebody else said, I've spoken to a lay this afternoon, blah, blah, blah. I don't know how I managed to they basically cold called me by post with the forms already in it. But I believe they know from, if you go on your own credit reference thingy, you can see who you've ever had borrowed money from.
Okay, well, I'm going to try them later on. I'll report back.
Yes, do. Because it falls into that category, my favourite category of all time, which is free money.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, they do charge you, obviously, but no win, no fee.
Yeah. Okay, well, that's fair enough, isn't it?
It is, because we wouldn't do it by ourselves, would we?
No.
Right, there we go. Right, so that's a sort of mixed week from sunshine, Paulinus, couldn't be bothered to work on Monday morning and Wednesday morning, besties over for lunch, and a small PPI win. That's a sort of classic self-employed week, in a way. Now, tell me what has fueled your fire.
I've sold my first book.
Oh, a track 3.0.
A track 3.0, yes.
Yes.
Depending on which side of the pond you're on.
Yes.
I put the page up, and it was really interesting because I went to do the page and I realised I'd already done it, which was a win because I hate doing sales pages. But there you go. And I sent out. I haven't even announced it to my list yet. Didn't get around to that. I can't remember how that's it. All of my 1-minute videos that I've been doing for the last couple of months, they all direct to my book page, and in order that people can go and claim a free copy of my how to market any business online book. And so what I did was I diverted the Nicola's book to the new book, and then I put the new book at the top of the book page, which every 1-minute video is pointing at. And I sold one within a day or two of doing that, which was quite exciting.
2 questions from me. How much does it go for?
$7.95.
Dollars or pounds?
Pounds.
And how is it delivered? It's an ebook, isn't it?
Yes.
And so how is it delivered?
It's delivered by email as soon as someone pays.
Yes, well, marvellous, and you've made it clear it is an ebook, because you remember I had all of those people who bought an ebook and then said, I didn't want an ebook, I wanted a printed book.
It says quite clearly it's an ebook.
Marvellous,
and,
okay.
I'll just refund them if they can.
You know what we always say to everybody, you can make 1 sale, you can make 1,000 sales.
Well, now I've got some ads rolling. Because I wanted to check whether I could remarket to the people who've been interacting with my videos, my page and my website and all that stuff, and see if any of those would like it. Because, if I can get some statistics on its conversion, then I can go out, to all sorts of things. But so nicolasbook.com is the URL you're looking for. It'll take you straight there. And it's basically a combination of one of my best, most popular books, which I think, has got the great content in it, which is How to Market Any Business Online, which I've updated for 2019. And I've combined it with the extensive report on how to do the Be Everywhere Online principles. And so I really think it's got some really solid content in it and tactics and why you need to do things and why things are so important, but also what to do. So go and crack on with that. So that cheered me up enormously. And I think I said it in a previous week. The results from these 1-minute videos are just astonishing. I mean, 200%, 300%, 400% better traffic. My traffic's now going up again rather than going down.
Okay.
Cool.
Marvellous. Shall I go on?
Yes.
So my What's Fueled Your Fire is going to lead nicely into our focus of the week, which I haven't told you about yet. So pay attention. Pin back your luggles.
Okay.
Monday, not feeling very good. Client work on Tuesday, so had to get out of bed. And client work always cheers me up, actually. And I had an interesting chat with a man who books in a pay what you want call with me about once a quarter. And he had a real world business. He still has a real world business based quite near me, but further into London, in a suburb of London I know really well. He said, well, things have moved on since October, since I last spoke to you, because I've agreed to sell my business, which I knew was a possibility for him. We debated the pros and cons of that and what else would you do instead. And he's a house husband, really. Like, he's the sort of the mirror image of his wife goes out to work and he's self-employed and looks after the kids. And they've got 3 small ones, twins, and one that was born before the twins, I think. And when I'm talking to him, he's British, so I overlook the fact that his first name and his surname is spectacularly Italian.
Okay.
And I knew that his wife was Turkish, and they're going to go and live in Spain. And because he is Italian and they're married, it means they can get the wife and the children can all get Italian passports, so they can go and live wherever they like in Europe, whatever happens to Brexit. And today, the 31st of January, that's still uncertain. So we don't know whether we'll be in or out because the government are making such a up about it. But anyway, they're all right, Jack. They can go and live wherever they like because he's Italian. And he was talking about taking a month off. And he said that he turned up at my website to get the link to book himself in. And he'd seen the article I wrote 2 weeks ago about transitioning from one career to another, and he took it as a sign. Well, that's a person after my own heart when they believe in signs. So he spent all session on Tuesday. Well, one of my very favourite things to talk to people about in a way, and something I'd done, which is what I'd written up in that article, talking to me about what he wanted to do next. Or rather, what he thought he would do next, not what he wanted to do next. Right. What he thought, and he offered me sensible options A, B, and C, none of which were lighting my candle, because they were quite competitive. They were things like, online marketing, small business consultancy, SEO. I mean, for heaven's sake, e-commerce. No. It's like, oh God, no, because he's come from a real world business. So what he was thinking was, I want to do what you've done, Judith, which is dispense advice to people from wherever I live in the world. Well, not easy. And he did that thing that clients do, where he said towards the end, I would say in the second half hour, of course, what I really want to do is make a living from I'm not going to tell you what it is, but because it's too, let's just say it's creative output. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. And I think I convinced him that it's not writing and it's not art, which is, I've got a lot of clients that do both of those. It's not either of those. But I think I convinced him that was the one to go for. He even sent me afterwards a sample of what he created, and it was far better than I dared hope. Oh, wow. And an agency, a publishing agency, has already picked it up and they own it now, and they're attempting to sell it for him. So when I say it was far better than I dared hope, he's really good at it. So he'd been apologetic and modest and, saying he didn't think he could make a living out of it, whereas it was so much more exciting to me than any of these dreary SEO type things he'd offered me. Now, SEO obviously isn't dreary if you're that sort of a person and you're, but a person selling, well, he's not an expert in that. He's done quite well doing various online marketing things for his own real world business, but that's not the same as either doing it yourself for somebody else or running an agency managing people doing it. You know how hard that is and undesirable, actually. Yeah. Anyway, so we talked about, now that I know he's really good at it, I'd already encouraged him even before I knew that, because obviously we know that if you practice anything, you can get better at it. And we talked about ways to make it pay, and I got really excited, to be honest. But the point of this story is I'm amazed by how people don't believe they can make their dream pay. And they talk to me about, being much more likely, I see it that they're much more likely to be able to do that than waste time trying to force themselves to set up something they're not interested in, but which appears like it might be successful or sensible. And I always say to them, don't go round the houses, go straight to your thing, especially in this marketplace where I think it's much easier to sell nice things that people want rather than business coaching and SEO and stuff that they really need. So this leads us very nicely into focus of the week. Shall I tell you what it is?
Yeah, go on then.
It's distinct, actually, because you don't really do it and I do. You do it a bit, but you don't do it as much as I do or as much as this man does. What to do when the product is you. Now, let me give you a few examples. Yeah. You find it easier to market your singing sister than she does to market herself, because she is the product.
Yes.
Despite the fact that she's earned a professional living doing it for 3 decades or something.
Yes.
When I worked for Heston at the Fat Duck, the front of house and all of the staff and me and his wife and everybody were totally besotted by his talent, but not him. He could only charge £28.50 for a 3-course meal until a Michelin star person said it was quite good, or the customer said it was quite good. So many of us need this
External validation.
Yeah, exactly. External validation. Because what we are, let me say what I've put here. I've said your dream way of earning a living feels just like that, whether you're a chef, a musician, an artist, a writer, or even a coach, because you offer yourself and you assume people won't pay for that, or we undersell it through modesty or insecurity or lack of confidence. So you talk about doing something else less appealing because it seems more, and really this word should be in quotes, realistic.
Yeah.
So I've put here examples are, it's easier for Nicola to market Heather than Heather to sell herself, or indeed believe in herself as a commercial musician despite a career doing just that. And I was thinking of, when I sold my business, I kept just 3 clients, one of which was Heston, and one was 2 ladies who sold art for office walls, but they hadn't created the art themselves. So they weren't artists, they were office
middlemen.
Yeah, they were agents. They were. Yeah. So they found it easier to sell the art. They found it easy, in fact, because they were good saleswomen, to sell the art of other people than maybe, not all, some of my artist clients do. Because maybe they could see they were meeting a commercial need, because, of course, the product wasn't them. So my client said he would believe in his ability to make a business out of his talent after his first sale. But I had to remind him, of course, about Wayne Dyer. You know, the British expression is, I'll believe it when I see it. But Wayne Dyer wrote a book called You'll See It When You Believe It, not the other way around. Now, before we discuss this, I want to read you. Have you read today's Tut? I imagine not, because you start early on a...
Yeah.
So Tut today says, oh yeah, Judith, I forgot to tell you. You get as many do-overs as you like. Of course, you never know you're living a do-over until it's over. There are lots of reasons for wanting a do-over. Most of all, people want another chance to do things they were afraid to do the first time, and to say things they were afraid to say. Oddly enough, it's not their mistakes they want to rework, but their unused minutes. Yeah, pretty nifty. But you should know that it isn't any easier the next time. And because no 2 ever go exactly the same, the gifts, opportunities, and loves of one never appear the same way again. So all in all, it's better to live as if there are no do-overs, so that you won't need one. But I thought I'd share this with you anyway, to work in the bits about fear, mistakes, and how precious today's opportunities really and truly are. And I think that's the nub. We're fearful, we're underconfident, we think people won't buy it when the product is us. Right, I'm going to shut up now and you may speak.
Well, it's so funny you were talking about this, because I suffer from the complete opposite.
I know. And you know, me too. I've never worried about selling me, and I think I was the product, both as an accountant and as a coach. I don't either, but it's so everybody else does, Nicola.
I know, and interesting, we were sitting talking about my fashion career last night. And I was drawing on the tablecloth, showing people how you do fashion illustration. Yep. And I was never quite good enough as a fashion designer, because I don't know what it was. I didn't feel creative enough. I mean, it didn't help that I went to my interview at St Martin's when the day the cloud from Chernobyl came across London. Anyway, long story. But that was the only thing I've never felt quite creative enough in.
I like that expression. I've written it down. Didn't feel creative enough. Perhaps that's what they're feeling. Do you feel creative enough with your sci-fi writing?
No, I feel terribly.
There you go, you see. So in the areas where the product is you, we don't feel confident.
Well, the product is me in internet marketing, because...
No, it's 50%. Compared to me, it's about 50% you, isn't it? Because you're selling them that you can teach them how to do a thing.
Yes, that's true.
Yes, you're the personality head, but you're not selling them you. I'm selling them me. You're selling them a program, mostly, aren't you?
Yeah. Well, and the reason I do that is because it's much, much easier than trying to sell yourself.
Well, no, don't say that, please, because you're going to put people off from doing what I want them to do.
Okay.
But that's the belief. That's the belief we're discussing today, that it feels easier to sell my, SEO services than me as a creative. There's also nothing to stop one doing it on the side.
People don't seem able to do it on the side, Judith. They just don't.
Let me tell you, I had to, but let me tell you, in the first consultation I ever have with the client is, this is my dream business and this is how I want to build it. Yes. Well, quite often it isn't. This is what I'm going to do. And it might take them a minute or 5 years to tell me what they really want to do, but we get there in the end. But and quite often it's actually, if it takes 5 years, I wouldn't say the 5 years is wasted, but it is a waste. It's not wasted, but it's a waste. But let me just finish that thought. I talked to them about, because what I could do as an accountant, and I realized that was easier as an accountant than some other things, because you can get paid really well for it, or you could in those days, is I could earn a full-time living in 2 days a week, and then I had 4 days a week, because I used to work Saturdays as well, 4 days a week left over to do my thing.
Yeah. And that's the thing, isn't it? Because especially when you've got a family, because you can't come home at the end of a long, hard day and commuting and travelling. And, well, except that some people manage to.
Well, you've got to pay your bills, is the point.
You've got to pay the bills, yeah. And then you've got to spend time with your family. But it doesn't have to be, you know, if you want something, you've got to carve out the time. That's
I agree. Yeah.
You know, but having said that, there is an energetic thing coming on. I'm about to go a bit woo-woo on you, Judith.
Oh, good.
Because I do what I love all day long, which is working with one wonderful client and, you know, who pays me. And then I'm building my membership site, which I have been actually wanting to do since the Money Gym days. I've always wanted a membership site, lots of people paying little bits of money, and giving a great service. But there always seems to be an easier way to make money than building the membership site.
So it's the seduction of ease.
Well, no, it's the fact that someone's waving a big chunk of cash at you to do this when it's going to take you a longer time to build up the thing you really want to do over here.
Well, I think you've kind of got to do both at the same time, because progress will be slower, but it won't be terminal.
But, okay, so here's the thing, right? When you are focused on, for example, I'm much more focused on my clients' marketing than I am on my own marketing. It's only by systemizing my own marketing that it's getting done. Because if it was down to me, it wouldn't be happening. Because, I mean, I've just realised this week I haven't sent out my own newsletter for the last 2 weeks because I've been travelling, and then I've been helping out with what, you know, my friend up the road's care and things like that. And so your thing that's the most important thing gets pushed to the back of the queue constantly, unless you're really lucky to have plenty of time and you're very disciplined.
Or you do what I recommended in my newsletter 2 weeks ago, which is you put your thing first.
Yes.
You know, so because I think people like us, when we go to work for other people, if we do them second, not first, they don't get a second type of energy. They get a first equal type of energy. But our thing's already been done. Even if it's only half a day a week, you've got to put your best energy into your own project.
Yeah, because also, here's where the woo-woo comes in. The universe knows where you're putting your energy. And if you're not putting your energy into your own thing, it won't send you the same results.
Absolutely right. Absolutely right. That's why putting it first, you send out that message. No, you know, to the universe, to your higher self, to your subconscious, to everyone, really. I wrote in that newsletter, I had a client who was an accountant, and he was very close to financial freedom. He was Australian, and he basically, because he was an accountant, he was doing financial freedom on a spreadsheet, you know, the stock market and property investments and things like that. And he was never getting around to it, and his other goal was fitness. So we got him to spend the first 2 hours of every day, Monday to Friday, on his own spreadsheety type of work. And then he would cycle or walk to his clients and start at 11 o'clock in the morning. I believe everybody can find that for me first time for their project. But actually, that's only part of it. I think the thing is, most people believe, and Tut is on point today, it's nobody will buy me. When the product is you, and so like go back to Heston, you feel until you get confident and the clients are loving it and Michelin tells you you're great, you feel you put your offer, I've got my hands together, my palms up, outward. You feel you're putting yourself on the plate. And until you can separate that or feel more like you and I do rather naturally, you in your work and less so interestingly in your creative pursuit. So what you've taught me today is that however, you know, brass neck and confident we are in the area of our businesses, when it comes to the area of our creativity where we feel vulnerable, and therefore we are bearing out what my clients say.
Yeah, but it won't stop me self-publishing my sci-fi book when it's finished. But what it is doing is stopping me writing it as fast as I could be.
Yeah, that's interesting, isn't it?
because it goes to the back of the queue. I have writing blocked out every afternoon.
It's the wrong order. I told you that last week.
Yeah. Have I written a single word this week? No. Every single day I've thought, well, I'm going to have to cancel that.
Yes. And you can't do it like that, you see. It's got to be the other way around. Even if it's only an hour first thing, it would be 5 hours a week.
Yes, which is more than I'm doing now.
Right.
0.
Yeah.
But the other interesting story, because it was Write Club Day yesterday. So Steph, we were talking about the podcast because we're up to, we've done a year, and someone was saying, it's starting to feel a bit like a job. And someone else was saying, okay, well, let's revisit why we're doing it. And Steph's written a fantastic novel. She's currently shopping it around to agents, and she's had some no's, but she's had some very nice no's, encouraging, this is a great, well-written book kind of no, it's just not for me kind of no. But she says that doing the podcast has given her a lot more confidence, because she's always said she needed to be published by a traditional author to give her the external validation that she was a good writer. But actually putting the podcast together and hearing from other writers and hearing from agents and interviewing people, it's all giving her the confidence to take a proud stand in the literary world. And she now feels that perhaps, just perhaps, she might not need a traditional publisher for her great book.
And do you know what you're reminding me of? When we used to work in the money gym, you always used to say that the thing that underlined everybody's failure was lack of self-esteem.
Yes. Well, that's what we're talking about here, isn't it?
It is, yeah. Well, we're calling it. It's interesting because I think there's a distinction between self-esteem and confidence, but I see they're married to one another. But let's see if we can come up with some solutions. What to do when the product is you? What, apart from having me as your coach and encouraging you to go for that one you really want to do because you've only got one wild and precious life, as Mary Oliver says. How can we help people? Well, let's use your example. When you went for your interview on Chernobyl Day, you didn't feel, with your fashion design, you never felt creative enough. And at the moment, that feeling is stopping you from writing. What could change that?
Well, the thing that springs to mind is I could start entering competitions, because there's lots of sci-fi competitions for short stories. So I could enter some short stories, but what I feel is that would just be taking me away from writing the damn book.
Why is there an urgency about the damn book?
Why is there an urgency?
Yeah. I mean, because the short stories is practice. And if you were winning them or getting better at them or even getting that sort of feedback like Steph's had, I think you'd feel more able to write because, well, I honestly don't think it should be external validation, but it's a place to start, isn't it?
I don't feel I need external validation of any kind. If I wrote the book and then published it, that would be fine.
All right. So the question then is, forget the competitions and the short stories, because that's for external validation. What would make you feel more empowered to write now? Because that's the thing you're dodging. And actually, you've told us that a lot over the last, since you started.
Well, the reason I feel not good enough as a sci-fi writer is because I read lots of fantastic sci-fi.
Well, and it's because the product is you.
Well, it's not the product. It's a bit different because the product isn't me.
Well, I think it is when you're writing, you see. I think with any creative output, the product is you because you're the originator of it.
I don't feel unself-confident about it. I just don't feel good enough. I sort of feel, what's the point in trying to write a half-assed, book when I could read lots of good ones?
I have the answer to this, and it came to me from our favourite human being, Thomas Leonard.
Oh, yeah.
Because when I went to the first ever coaching meeting with him, I was quite arrogant, I suppose is the word, but he handled it very nicely because there were 200 wannabe coaches in the room, and most of them were in their 20s who were fed up with their typing job. And I went up to him at the first break and said, and I'm apologising for this because it is horribly arrogant, and I said to him, I'm quite surprised by the calibre of people in the room because I imagine to be a coach, you need to be exceptional. And he said, ordinary people need ordinary coaches. So if you go back to so people won't hire you if you're 2 streets ahead. And it's the same with reading. Some people, the thing we always have at WordPress is, this is not readable. This is too difficult for people because you've used too many big words. We read at all different levels. We read hard things that are improving. We read, page turners. We don't read junk, but we read good enough at the lower level, and those people improve as the series goes on. I think there's a market for any level at which you create content. You see so many people, don't you, on Amazon, and I hear about it on Facebook, people who've written a book and people have read it and they liked it, and then there's a whole series of 7 of them. I mean,
I know someone.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't think I'm giving you a bit of a nag there, like you might give to Heather. I hear what you say, but I don't think that's a valid reason. Because I've never read a sci-fi novel in my life, I wouldn't know whether yours was good or bad. I would just know whether it was enjoyable and readable. You only know whether yours measures up to Ian M. Banks because you've read at the top level of sci-fi.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's a good one. That's a really good point. Let's just stop here for a minute. Was Heston as good a cook in 1996? No. Was Amy Winehouse as good a musician on day one? No. Was I as good a writer when you persuaded me to do it in the early noughties? No. Was I as good a coach back then? No. We've got to find a way to come to market when we're good enough, when we're fit for purpose.
Yes, and it has been proven in the famous Outliers book that practice will trump talent every time over 10 years.
Yes. Lovely point.
Because lots of people who they've studied who was more talented than people who became more successful. But the people who became more successful at it, which is an external measure of talent, were the ones who practiced and kept going.
Yes, and here's an interesting point as well. I think perhaps, and it's only just occurred to me on that practice trumps talent point, most talented people who get better at it, I think they still have the same issue, which is their own standards for their own creative output rise as they practice more. So I think maybe it just goes with the territory in the fields of creativity that we're never good enough.
Yeah.
Or we're always looking to improve it.
Which is admirable in itself.
It's not the same thing, and it's a better take on it, isn't it? Just because we're not perfect doesn't mean we can't offer it to the world. I can't afford perfection by and large.
No.
I can in a book. But actually, that's very subjective, isn't it?
Yes.
I don't know there's an answer. There's not an answer, is there? What to do when the product is you? Well, do it anyway and hope to get better by practice.
Yes. And I keep feeling I've got to get to the point of being bored until I can write this book. Do you know what I mean? All the time, the only times I ever write anything is when there's a deadline looming for the podcast. So in that way, the podcast is doing a great job because it's making me write something, although, we all decided, me included, that the output I wrote for the last podcast was rubbish. And I was only doing it because I had a deadline.
Well, yeah, but you see, even that's better than not doing it, isn't it? Because you've offered yourself up to critique, and you're quite brave about that, actually. And you wrote something for a deadline. I mean, I think we've got to be prepared to create rubbish in order to get better at it. And I think a deadline is useful. And I take your point about boredom. I don't need to be bored to write, but I sometimes need to bore myself with my procrastination before I do certain sorts of writing.
Yeah. And the thing is, if I just said I've got an idea for another first chapter, because we all knew that my first chapter wasn't really working, but I hadn't written a second version. So if I'd said I've got a great idea for a new chapter, that's all it would have been. But actually, I wrote the new chapter and it didn't work. So that was one idea for the new chapter that I don't have to worry about anymore because it didn't work. So it's so good talking about things because nobody can judge, much less your audience or your marketplace. Nobody can judge anything if they can't see it or hear it or take it.
No. And that's what happened when this man sent me the thing for me to consume was like, I crossed my fingers a bit hoping I was going to be able to say nice things about it. It was way better than I dared hope. So the point is that he and I are using different criteria to judge it. I'm the innocent bystander who's going, wow, and he's the creator that's going, I don't think it's good enough. And it's the same piece of content. And so maybe we've got to push through all of this nonsense, offer it to the marketplace, and let them decide.
Yes. Well, that's what Gary Vaynerchuk says, and he's my hero. So he says that creativity is subjective, and the only opinion that matters is that of the marketplace.
I think that's true. I think also the Wayne Dyer point is very pertinent. Don't wait for the external validation to believe in it. Push ahead. Be your own number one fan.
Yeah.
That's harder. That's harder to do than it is for me to say, actually.
Yeah. And the other thing is that, you've got to give something time because one of my clients she's getting fantastic results. She had 150 people join her first challenge. She gets fantastic engagement on her Facebook page with every video she does. People absolutely love what she's doing. But, again, she's saying, well, is it working? She's got unrealistic expectations. It's like that old thing of we underestimate what we can do in 10 years, but we overestimate what we can do in a year.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah.
The time passes anyway.
Yes, and you could have been doing something in that time.
Yes.
Heather could have had at least nearly 100 videos up by now. She'd done one a week, like she said the first time she said it. And 100
Well, I think that's the one thing you've got to encourage her to do, because it's so simple, isn't it? Make a video, put it out, make a video, put it out, make a video. What's your equivalent?
What, in terms of writing?
Yeah.
Well, just sit down and write 500 words every day or something.
Put it first, yes.
But I'd have to put it first or it wouldn't get done.
I really believe, that great writing course that I went on with Joshua Fields Milburn, it was to find an extra hour in the day to sit in the writer's chair, even if all you do is watch the cursor blink, which is basically what I did on Monday. I didn't write on Monday, just like, I'm not doing it today. But something else is important here. I think, yes, I know about writing. One of my clients is a writer, self-published her first book, and is now working with a mentor, and she has a writing mentor. She's made spectacular progress, not just in how quickly she wrote the first draft, but the caliber of the first draft, the expectation for the second book, the likelihood of achieving an orthodox publishing contract because the mentor is connected in that world. How are you coming along with your Curtis Brown mentoring thing?
I've totally ignored week 2.
Yeah.
Up to now.
So the spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak on things. I honestly feel that the nub of this is about it being personal to us. It's like our real dream we keep in a little tight box in case it doesn't work. It's that. We feel very precious about it.
No, it's because I've been really, really, really busy this week, getting all the jobs done that need to be done and trying to recruit and make sure the videos are there.
Yes, and sometimes we have a week like that. I totally agree with you. So you were protecting your income, but lots of my clients say that, I've got to get this out of the way first and that out of the way first and this out of the way and that out of the way, and then I'll come to my special precious thing. But, hello, sometime never, isn't it? Yes,
and special precious thing, I did drive to Kalamata and back on Sunday, but I came back, I was knackered. I couldn't even think. I just wanted to watch telly.
Yes.
Because that drive is horrendous.
Yes. There's no easy answer to this one. Believe it first, find the time for it, prioritise it, do it despite self-doubt.
Yeah, that's another good word there. We all put those things last because we don't really, in our heart of hearts, believe it's going to make any difference.
Yeah.
And so we don't do it.
Yeah.
But whereas if we knew definitely that I was going to become a best-selling science fiction author and all I had to do was write the damn thing, I'd be writing the damn thing.
Well, it works around the other way, doesn't it? Unless you write the damn thing, there's no hope of the first one.
I know. And that's the paradox, Judith.
Well, except that when people offer me these sensible things instead, it's like, I'm going to be a small business consultant like you, Judith, and I'm thinking, well, you don't have the experience for that. I'm going to run an SEO agency. Well, how dull, and office-based. And competitive. And then I thought I might do e-commerce. Oh, well, if you think you'll find the time with your 3 children to sit in front of your laptop, by all means. But frankly, what's the point of living in Spain? You might as well do your thing. I actually don't think your thing is any more difficult to get off the ground than these starting from scratch on these so-called sensible ideas, because you've got to put the time in to start to create an income from anything.
And you've got to have the passion to be able to get past the obstacles.
Yeah, well, that's why it takes these people 5 years to come around to going for the passion project in the end, is because the other things seemed sensible and they flogged themselves on those and they were bloody hard because they're not passionate about them.
No, and it's very difficult to find solutions to obstacles if you're not passionate about the
No, that's right. Anyway, we've been banging on quite a lot there. I think we should move swiftly along. There isn't an easy answer to this one, but follow your passion. Have you got a word of the week?
I have, and you're going to like it.
Oh, good.
It's tight. And the reason I've chosen that is because not only have I been tight for time this week, but I washed my cashmere mittens, and they are extremely tight.
Yeah, you should never wash cashmere. What's the matter with you?
No, I didn't know it in my heart of hearts.
Yes. Oh, tragic.
They were teeny tiny. I have managed to squeeze my hands into them, and they have expanded enough to wear. So I'm a happy woman.
Well, I am wearing my cashmere travel wrap that Jane gave me. Let me have a look at the washing instructions on this. I'm sure it says 100% cashmere.
No water.
No, I frankly, I would probably take it to the dry cleaner.
Yeah.
I wouldn't even attempt that. Consequently, it's probably rather smelly. No, it's okay. Right. My word of the week is month end, because it's the 31st today, and I'll be doing my accounts this afternoon, as I told you earlier, with some relish.
Yes, and to be able to tuck it away in an afternoon, that's quite impressive.
Oh, I can probably do it in about 2 hours these days, even though there's quite a lot of jobs. Do you want to hear how many jobs there are involved in doing my accounts? because so I have to crank out Sage and do my business accounts, which means, do a bank rec and get the transactions from PayPal and download my credit card and input that. I have to do my property accounts. I have to do my personal accounts. I do a monthly calculation of work in progress, which is people who've paid me in advance and I haven't delivered the sessions yet, because if I were to die, my estate would have to refund them the money.
Yeah.
I update cash flow historic and I predict cash flow going forward. So I know that I've got enough money on hand each day to pay everything. I move money around. I check to see whether any of my affiliate programs owe me money. I mean, there's quite a lot of work there. I have to be fair, I've done a few earlier in the week because I couldn't wait because, I love doing it so much. I know, it's madness, isn't it? But looking at all those people today, even today on Facebook, January the 31st, the self-assessment deadline saying I'm knee-deep in my own chits trying to meet the deadline for the tax return, which, let's face it, is from last April. So they've had April, May, June, July, August, September, October, November, December, January. They've had 10 months to do it, and they're doing it on the 31st of January.
Why do they do that?
I don't know.
It's mental, isn't it?
Well, it's the same point you made about the deadline, isn't it?
What, only deadline driven?
Well, unless you've got a deadline, nobody does anything.
No, I suppose so, yes.
Especially jobs you don't want to do.
No, exactly. They go right to the back of the line.
Exactly. Now, tell me about your project updates.
Nothing new on Writing Club World, except that two of my Write Club ladies have decided they want to start creating articles for Writing Club World.
Oh, good.
Because they've decided that being published on someone else's blog as a featured writer would help their standing in the writing community when they start submitting.
That's true, isn't it?
Yeah, it is true. So,
will that give them links back to their own website or something? Do they even have their own websites?
Yes, they've all got at least a Facebook page. I've made sure of that.
Excellent.
But yes, so that's really good. Steph turned out 4 really good articles, and Teresa's working on her first one about winning competitions because she won the Travel Telegraph competition.
Yes. So actually, they're both quite motivated to help other writers, which is nice, isn't it?
Yeah. So so it was great for me because I get new content for the website, which is obviously going to be a content-driven website. So there you go.
Yeah, good. Okay, so nothing from me this week. I've skived on Monday, couldn't force myself to do my writing, but I've told you this already. So because we're running out of time, I'm going to whiz us along to who or what's impressed you.
Well, I've found a new author. If you're into the police procedural genre, crime, go and check out Joseph Knox, Knox. He's written 3 novels featuring a detective called Aidan Waits, Waits. His first one is Sirens, and I'm absolutely loving the writing on it. It's dark, 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 and the characters are quite compelling.
Oh, good. Excellent. Yeah. Well, I can't show you this on the podcast, but I'm going to show it to you afterwards. You've been telling us for a couple of weeks about this new model where we read pages leading to a sale.
Yes.
One day this week, I woke up. I don't have ad blocker on my iPad. I'm not quite sure why, but I don't. So I do buy things from Facebook ads on my iPad, never on my laptop because I never see the ads. But I saw an excellent example of that. I'm going to send it to you because I think you'll enjoy it. It was an ad, a sponsored post on Facebook for a probiotic. And do you know what they are? They're sort of gut health tablet. Yeah. I take those, but I'm not convinced they work. And the ad said to me, what if in 6 days you could achieve what you're trying to do with your probiotics and you don't have to take them forever? And it explained to me in simple, fast text on a purple page with white writing on the top and a second page and some testimonials. And I could watch a video if I wanted to, which of course I didn't want to. So I got all the information I wanted from 2 simple, fast pages of text and a few testimonials, which didn't really need to read too many of those because I found the sales message very convincing. And I could go straight to the buy now button without having to go through, without being obliged to sit through any more marketing material than I needed to make my decision. And when you got there, it said, there's 6 days, or why not double up and buy 12 days because that's like, giving yourself a double whammy. And I bought it and it worked.
Well, There you go.
Well, I mean, what I'm saying is it's a brilliant example of marketing, and it's exactly using the Frank Kern model that you've been telling us about.
No friction, no barriers. Yeah.
But yes, exactly. So as a reader, I could make my purchase by reading. And if I was a video monkey, I could have watched a video about it.
Yeah. Brilliant. Well, I look forward to seeing it after.
Yeah, I'll send it to you in a minute.
Great stuff.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Not at all. See you next week. Bye.
How do they do it? Not a care and suffering. Wanna step into their world. Who holds the key?
You've been listening to Nicola Cairncross and Judith Morgan. The podcast is called Own It, Your Business and Your Life. Do come and visit us at ownitthepodcast.com. We'd love to hear your feedback. You can find out more about Judith and visit her on her website at judithmorgan.com, and you can find Nicola at nicolacairncross.com.